Hello everyone, welcome back to Age of Nagash, which is a channel dedicated to Age of Sigmar. In today's video we're going to look at Neferata's own legion, that of course being the Legion of Blood. Now for me personally, I don't think I'll be able to use this too much as I don't have many Soul Blight units in my army. However, Neferata for lore reasons is my favourite Mortarch, so I'm very excited to look at this. Okay, so we're going to start with battle traits. Now the first one will be the same as the rest of the other Legion's battle trait, which is the Unquiet Dead. But I'll read it again. So after territories have been determined, but before any units have been set up, you may pick up to 2 points in your territory and up to 2 points anywhere on the battlefield to be grave sites. You may wish to place suitable markers on these points. Instead of setting up a sunball unit on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say it is set up in the grave. You can do this with as many units as you wish. At the end of your movement phase, for each death hero within 9 inches of a grave site, you may pick a single unit in the grave and set it up wholly within 9 inches of the grave site and more than 9 inches from any enemy models. Any models that is unable to set up in this way is slain. If a unit is still in the grave at the end of the battle, which is considered to be slain. Grave sites have the following ability: Invigorating Aura. At the start of your hero phase, pick a friendly sunball unit within 9 inches of this gravesite. You can either heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to it, or, if no wounds are currently allocated to the unit, you may return a number of slain models to it that have a combined wound characteristic equal to or less than the roll of a D3. Okay, so I've talked about this much more in detail in my other videos. However, I'll mention it again, so I think this is a really good ability. You can set up 4 grave sites in total, so the 2 that you've got in your territory you have to set up, you can easily put them on your objectives, and then the 2 other ones to set up anywhere on the board, you can easily put that on. If you're playing a battle plan with there's 2 objectives in the middle of the board, you can put them on there, so if you get to deploy your army first, you get to choose to go first, and then you can summon, I don't know, like a block of 40 skeletons onto one of these objectives as your grave sites bang on top of it. And there'll be very little the enemy can do to stop you, as if you go first, they're more than unlikely going to have any of their units within 9 inches of that grave site. So yeah, and then also you've got the Invigorating Aura, so that's just another way to heal your sunball units or to bring them back. This is what I did on last Saturday when I had my first go with the Grand Host and Nagash. And I was using all the grave sites and the heroes I had just to bring back as many Graveguard as I could, and it worked really, really well. So yeah, good battle trait there. Like I say, if you want a more in-depth analysis of it, I've talked about it a lot of my other videos, mainly in the Grand Host and Nagash video, so you can go there for more information. Okay, on to the next battle trait, Deathless Minions. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a friendly death unit within 6 inches of your general or another friendly death hero. On a 6+, the wound is negated. Okay, so we all know what this does, because this has been around since the first General's Handbook. It's had a little bit of change here and there, but it's essentially the same. Like I say, it's just a passive ability, but it is a really good one, as like I've mentioned before, if you have all your units within range of a hero, you'll be saving a 1/6 of the overall damage done to you in that game, which is huge. So that's good there. And then we have one here which is unique to the Legion of Blood. So we have Immortal Majesty. Subtract 1 from the bravery characteristics of enemy units within 6 inches of any friendly Legion of Blood units. So this is good, especially how banners now for death make the enemy -1 to their bravery. I believe they're within 6 inches of any banners. So that's good. So if you do that, you can easily, with this ability as well, make the enemy -2 bravery. There are ways to make them -3, and there's ways to make, if you have like Morghast in your armies, for example, if the enemy's within 6 inches of them, then -1 to their bravery. So you're looking at -3, and then there's a spell for the Death Mages that makes the enemy -1 bravery, and then if you get the Locust Triash ability off, the spell affects twice, so it means that the enemy is -2 bravery from that. So plus the 3 from earlier, so the -5 bravery. And then there are more ways to make the enemy minus bravery still. So that's just a little bit of how it can all stack up. And so it might just sound like Not amazing, that battle trait, you know, Immortal Majesty, subtract 1 from the brave characteristics of enemy units within 6 inches of any friendly Legions of the Blood units. However, when it's teamed up with all the other abilities that will do the same, you'll see the enemies run into the hills very quickly. Okay, so then we go on to the next battle trait, which again is unique to Legion of the Blood. Favoured Retainers. Add 1 to the attack characteristics of all melee weapons used by friendly Legion of the Blood, Vampire Lords, and Legion of the Blood, Blood Knights. Okay, so this again is good, especially if you've got a lot of Blood Knights in your army. You know, fantastic. You know, this will be really good for you. It will help the fact that their banner no longer obviously brings back a model, which I know is a shame. However, you can use them now a lot more as just a shock cavalry role and less of a you know, a grindy sort of unit. So again, add 1 to your attacks is, you know, it's not bad, it's good. And because it's Blood Knights and Vampire Lords, now obviously the Blood Knights, when it's written down here in the battle tome, it's not in a blocked text. So what I mean by that is it's not just saying the Blood Knight keyword, it means the unit. However, when it's talking about the Vampire Lord, it is using a blocked text, so that means that it's the keyword Vampire Lord. So that means that you can use it on your Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, and as it is a battle trait, it will affect his dragon as well, because it's not a command trait and artifact, so that's good. So the dragon at that point, let me just have a look, it'll be making, I think it makes 3 attacks standard now, so it'll be making 4 attacks. Let's have a look. So the guy's lance will be making 4 attacks, or if you've got the sword, you're making 5. The zombie dragon's more, normally makes 3, so now it's making 4. And the skeletal sword like claws to start with makes 7 attacks, so to start with they'll be making 8. Now, which is really nice about this is, like I say, you know, it works on normal Vampire Lord, or if you put it on, you know, you've got the big nasty in your army being on the zombie dragon, makes it pretty horrific. And you don't have to be in range of Neferata or anything like that, because if you have Neferata in this Legion of Blood, you have to have her as a general. So if they also teamed in all these battle traits to revolve around her and you have to be within so many inches of her, it wouldn't be very good at all, because the enemy would just snipe off the board so quickly. So yeah, Favoured Retainers, that's good. Add 1 to attack characteristics of all melee weapons used by friendly Legion of Blood Vampire Lords and Legion of Blood Blood Knights. I think that's very useful. What's also important to note when I've been reading through these battle traits for the Legions of Nagash, it's just to note just how many we've got, you know, for each of these legions. Like the Legion of Blood, for example, gets the Unquiet Death like the rest. It also gets Deathless Minions like the rest. However, it's getting the Immortal Majesty and the Favoured Retainers as well. So we've got 4 battle trait abilities, if you don't include the command trait, which I don't think is particularly good. If you do include that though, we have like 5 battle trait abilities which are really good, because I mean, like most armies, yeah, sure, they can be really good, like the Zeech Destiny Dice, you know, rolling 9 dice before the game starts, being able to, instead of rolling dice later, just being able to pick one of the results, you know, is really good. However, that's like the only I believe that's the only battle trait they've got, and you know, like in this Legion here, Legion of Blood, we've got 4, and I think they are generally really good and be really useful. For me, the Favoured Retainers to add 1 to the attack characteristics, I do like it. It will be really good for my Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. However, I don't have any Blood Knights, unfortunately. I would like to get some. It's just, for me, it's the cost of them, which I'm not saying they're not worth it. I just think they are quite expensive for resin models, but I will say they do look absolutely fantastic. So I more than likely will end up getting a unit of them, but I don't know if I will, you know, like make multiple units as, like I say, the cost. But if you do, and if you do have them, you know, absolutely fantastic. I've seen many people's armies with them on Facebook. There's like some people out there with like 20 of them, or 30 even. And you know, they are lovely models. So you know, if you can afford them, I'd definitely get them. So anyway, that's the battle traits, and then we have the command trait, which is part of it. So we have the General of a Legion of Blood. Army knows the following additional command ability. So Endless Legions. So we've looked at this before with the other legions, as in the Grand Host Nagash, because Endless Legions, it's the same as the rest of them. However, I'm not too sure about it because I'll read it anyway, but I've talked about it in my other videos. So, Endless Legions, if your general uses this ability, choose a gravesite within 9 inches of them. You may pick a friendly symbol unit that has been destroyed and set it up wholly within 9 inches of that gravesite, and more than 9 inches from any enemy models. So, obviously you have to have reserve points for this, and I've gone in detail, like I say, in my other videos about it, but I just feel like it's not a very good command ability. I mean, there might be some instance where, you know, it is useful and it, you know, could save the day. I'm not too sure, but I think it's just way too situational. You're going to have the points set aside, and also you can bring back a unit that's been destroyed, so you have to bring it back exactly how it was, so the same points it was, the same, you know, number of models that were in the unit, which, you know, probably is going to be quite hard to do. And also, if the enemy's squatting on your grave sites, you won't be able to set up the unit as you won't have the range. But in like a narrative game, it could be really fun, so could have some uses there. And then we move on to the command traits. So the first one is Swift Strike. So each time you make a hit roll of 6 in combat for the general, you can make one additional hit roll for the same weapon against the same target. So that looks pretty good. Like I said, you're probably going to have a Vampire Lord on a Zombie Dragon in your army, so he'll take good use of this. If you do have Neferata in your army, of course she needs to be the general, but that would mean that none of the command traits would come into effect, and then we won't get to talk about them, so where's the fun in that? So if you had the Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, every time you make a hit roll of a 6 in the combat phase with his lance, or if you took the sword, because it wouldn't apply to the dragon, you get to make an additional hit roll for that. Now, if you're not getting pluses to hit, I personally don't see this to be too amazing. I mean, you know, can make your guy pretty good. However, on a 6, if you're taking the lance, in the Legions of Blood, normally you would get 3 attacks on lance, but in the Legions of Blood you would get 4 attacks. So there's a good chance you won't actually get roll a 6 to hit, so this won't come into effect. But, you know, like I said before with Warhammer, chances and averages don't actually make any sense, so could be useful there. And then we move on to number 2, Soul Crushing Contempt. If this general slays any models in the combat phase, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristics of the slain models' units until the end of the turn. Okay, so this is where I started saying stacking bravery, so let's go through what we could do. So we've got Immortal Majesty, which would give the subtract 1 from the bravery characteristics of enemy units within 6 inches of any friendly Legions of Blood units. So we've always got that as a constant, so let's say we've got that on the Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, and then he's also got the command trait Soul Crushing Contempt, which means the one I just read out, so if he slays any enemy models, the unit just suffered those casualties will be -1 bravery, so they're now on -2. Let's say you've got a unit of Blood Knights within 6 inches of the units being affected already, or skeletons. Their banner will make that enemy unit an extra -1 bravery, so now they're on -3. And then if you have this spell from the Laws of the Dead, it's spell under Death Mages. I'm just going to find out what it's called. So we've got the Overwhelming Dread. Now that casts on a 5, however if you cast it on a 9, it would make the enemy -2 to their bravery. So now we're looking at, what's that, -5. And then if you have some Morgoth's Archive in range, now they're -6. And yeah, sure, there's a lot of things, you know, tick, you know, like I say, tick the boxes and all that sort of thing to get them all in range. However, if you really wanted to do that and really focus on doing it, it wouldn't be too hard. So yeah, you can make the enemy horrendous. I mean, like you'd be looking at brutes. The Iron Jaws would have, if they had -6 to their bravery, they'd be having, you know, bravery 0. Now there's also that terrain feature on the scenery table chart, which I've talked about in another video, and one of the features is called Sinister, and that can make your units give a -1 bravery aura. If you want more information about it, you can have a look at the video, but essentially it can make your units scary and make the enemy units, if they're within 3 inches of them, -1 to their bravery. So you could potentially make -7 bravery. So if we're talking about those brutes again for the Iron Jaws, normally bravery 6, now bravery 0, and then if you had that terrain feature involved, now bravery -1. So if you make them take a casualty, so they have to take a battle test, they would already be losing 2 plus d6. And when you're looking at things like brutes, also works on things like ogres. It's really good, really powerful. So I like that. Soul crushing concept is really good, I think. Also, if you ally a Terrorgeist into your army, that thing could just do horrendous damage. It could, you know, like a Terrorgeist with its Scream against most armies has the potential to do, let's say, 6 mortal wounds. However, with all these stacking at minus its bravery, the Terrorgeist could potentially do, with not too much difficult, 12 mortal wounds with its Scream attack. And there's also things like the Banshee Scream attack will take huge advantage of this. So, yeah, that's pretty good. So, really like that one. And then we're moving on to number 3. So, Aristocracy of Blood. You can reroll failed charge rolls for friendly Soul Blight units that are within 9 inches of this general at the start of your charge phase. Okay, so I've talked about abilities like this before. I'm a big fan of being able to reroll charges or improve your charges just so you can pick the combats that you want to happen when you say so rather than on the enemy's terms. So, big fan of this. Like, it does affect Soul Blight units. Well, it only affects Soul Blight units, so I said at the start of this video, I don't have too many Soul Blight units. When I say that, I mean, I have a lot of crit flares, which, to be honest, for the Legions of Nagash, I'm just going to use them as Vargheist, as they are like 90% the same kit, and I'm not buying all those flares again just to make them to Vargheists. So I do have a lot of Soul Blight there, but I don't have any Blood Knights or anything like that, which Blood Knights would be really good in this army. So, but if I wanted to just take loads of, you know, Soul Blight units, I potentially can, as I have a lot of Vampire Lords and, like I say, Vargheist and Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon and Neferata and so on. So being able to reroll failed charge rolls isn't bad. It's important to mention that Vargheist are no longer battle line for Soul Blight armies, as apparently that was overpowered, which I never saw that, but I never fought it, so I can't say for sure. So anyway, being able to reroll failed charge rolls for friendly Soul Blight units within 9 inches of this general at the start of the charge phase is really nice. So that's good there. And then number 4, Aura of Dark Majesty. Subtract 1 from the hit rolls of attacks that target this general in the combat phase. So if you have a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, he's rocking a 3-up save. And then if you're making the enemy -1 to hit you, which makes things even better, you can put a Mystic Shield on yourself, so you've got a 2-up save, the enemy's -1 to hit you in the combat phase. Just makes you that much more durable, especially how the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon can heal quite nicely as well. And then this would, you know, stack if you had this, you know, I was going to say, if you have this on your Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, then you have Neferata's command ability that makes the enemy -1, so their hit rolls within 16 inches. That would be really good, but of course, in order to do that, you would need Neferata in the army, and if she's in the army, she has to be the general, so you wouldn't be able to use this command trait anyway. However, if you had something like a Mongol in your army, makes the enemy -1 to hit, and then with this, it's another -1, so it could be a really nice stack in there. Right, now moving on to number 5, Walking Death. If the hit roll for an attack made with one of this general's melee weapons is a 6+, do not roll to wound. Instead, the target suffers number of mortal wounds equal to the damage characteristic of that weapon. Okay, so I think this is really nice. We're comparing this to the other like combat sort of effectiveness sort of, you know, command trait there is. It's Swift Strike. So I'll remind you what that does. Each time you make a hit roll of a 6 in the combat phase for this general, you can make 1 additional hit roll for the same weapon against the same target. So, like I said, that was alright. However, I much prefer the Walking Death to make your guy a much more, like, you know, heavy hitter, especially with the Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon. Because I would give him the lance, he would charge into the enemy on that turn, and then if the hit roll for an attack made with one of this general's melee weapons, so that would be the lance, is a 6, do not roll to wound. Instead, the target suffers number of mortal wounds equal to the damage characteristic of that weapon. So then that would make my my damage would be 3. So then that would mean that every time I got a 6 to hit, instead of me rolling to wound, the enemy would just take 3 mortal wounds. And like I said, with the lance in this army, he'll be making 4 attacks. So that's not bad. And there are things like, damn terrain and stuff about, so if you wanted to sacrifice yourself to it, and you'll suffer D3 mortal wounds, but you've got a chance of healing those and also saving against them. Give yourself +1 to hit, so then this ability would trigger on a 5 up. So I like that. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. And then moving on to number 6, Sanguine Blur. Add 2 to this general's move characteristics. In addition, you can reroll failed charge rolls for this general. Okay, so now this is good if, like I say, if you just want to make your general a beast in combat, or make him even more of a beast. As we are basically just referring to the Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon the whole time. So this will make your Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon move 16 inches, which makes him as fast as Neferata herself or any of the other Mortal Archers. Moving 16 inches, and you can reroll failed charge rolls for this general. Okay, so that's good. However, if you're looking at getting the rerolling the charge rolls, Aristocracy of Blood is a lot better. So you can reroll failed charge rolls for friendly Soulblight units that are within 9 inches of this general at the start of the charge phase. So this is a lot better if you're taking the Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon as general, because models are always within range of their own abilities, and as he is a Soulblight unit, he will be able to reroll failed charge rolls anyway. So the trade-off here is that he would not add 2 to his move characteristics, so he would only be able to move 14. That's such a terrible movement already, so fair enough. But and then so he wouldn't get that, but he would be able to reroll failed charge rolls for other Soulblight units within 9 inches of him. Like I said, if you're rocking a lot of Blood Knight stuff, could be really good. And joking aside, being able to move 14 inches is really good. So I'd say Aristocracy of Blood is a lot better than number 6. So with those command traits all read through, I'm just going to pick the ones that I think are the best. So I like Soul Crushing Contempt. So if this general slays any models in the combat phase, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristics of the slain model's unit until the end of the turn. And the reason I really like this is, like I said before, there's just so many ways to make the enemy minus to their bravery. This could stack really nice. So I'd go for Soul Crushing Contempt. Also like the Aristocracy of Blood, which I just said, to reroll the charge rolls for those Soulblight units within 9 inches of him. And there's also, it affects your general as well. And like I said, the Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon will make him, it'll make him better in combat as it will get his charges in. So it makes your guy, a more of a beast in combat, and also benefits the rest of your army. So it's a nice sort of hybrid there. And then what else have we got? And then Aura of Dark Majesty is good to make the enemy -1 to hit your general in the combat phase. Because there's a lot of things that do mortal wounds on 6s, like you look at Retributors, where every time they get a hit roll of a 6, it does 2 mortal wounds, so that's very nasty. So being able to make them -1 to the hits could help you out a lot there. And then Walking Death, so every time you get a hit roll of a 6 or more for your generals, Meteor Weapon can't be a mount Meteor Weapon, but for the Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, his Lance of Sword makes the enemy suffer the damage in mortal wounds opposing, instead of you to just roll to wound like normal. So yep, some pretty good command traits there. A lot of them are much more aggressive than some of the other ones we've looked at in the other legions, like the Grand Host and Nagash. Quite a few of them were aggressive, don't get me wrong, but they're more sort of like benefiting the rest of the army. There are still ones here that do benefit the rest of the army, but it feels a lot more centered around your general, I think, is the best way to explain that. So now we're moving on to Artifacts of Blood. So the first one, Ring of Dominion. The fated crimson gem upon this ring contains the blood of an ancient vampire. Its magic can dominate the minds of lesser beings. When the bearer is selected to fight in the combat phase, you can pick an enemy model within 3 inches of them and roll a dice. On a 5+, you can pick a melee weapon that the enemy model is armed with, though not one that has a value for 1 or more characteristics that is given as a star sign, so that means refer to the damage table or see below. For this combat phase, the bearer of the ring may attack with that weapon in addition to their own. Okay, so this is really good. I talked about this in the article for the Legion of Blood, and I gave like a good opinion on it there, and I'll talk about it again here. So I'm a big fan of this because firstly, it's not once per game, which is nice, and then being able to pick an enemy model within 3 inches, it's a big distance. It's not just the model you're engaged in combat. It's one who's could be behind the ranks of enemy. I mean, if thinking about it, a lot of big monsters and generals and stuff like that usually bubble wrap their model with like basic units. For death we'd do it with skeletons, or Chaos might do it with Marauders or something like that. They might bubble wrap Archaon with a unit of Marauders, and if they do so, and you still get in range of Archaon, you can make him you can steal his own attack essentially from him, which is really nice, and you do it on a 5+, so it's not even that hard to do. I mean, yeah, a third of a chance of doing it, opposed to 2/3 not being able to do it. However, I could easily see them make this ability trigger on a 6, so on a 5 I think is good. And then you also get to attack with your own weapons, so you've got a Vampire on Zombie Dragon doing horrendous damage already, and then if he's in range of a monster, he can use the other monster's attack as well. So I'm a big fan of that. Ring of Dominion, that might potentially be my favourite one, but we'll read the rest just to make sure. So, number 2, Shade Glass Decanter. This cursed vessel siphons away the souls of the living, capturing them forever. After armies have been set up, but before the first battle round, select an enemy hero in your hero phase. As long as that hero is on the battlefield, you can roll a dice. If the result is higher than the number of current battle rounds, that hero suffers 1 mortal wound. So, I think this is quite good. It is not going to, kill a hero outright more than likely, but it is almost a constant stream of mortal wounds, particularly in the early rounds, where a lot of the times you are going to roll higher than the current battle round, especially in the first couple of turns. So there's a way to do mortal wounds to the enemy, especially how it can be, anywhere on the battlefield, no matter how well they try and hide them. Which might not sound like a lot, but because you've shaved off a couple of wounds of them in the early round, when you get into combat with them, the difference between them already suffering a couple of wounds, like I say, could be the difference between them living or surviving a combat round. So there's use for it there. Okay, so number 3, the Orb of Enchantment. To glance into the swirling depths of this crystal orb is to become hypnotized by an alluring vision and half-glimpsed future. Once per battle, at the start of a combat phase, you can pick an enemy hero within 3 inches of the bearer. In that combat phase, the enemy hero may not pile in attack or use abilities. So this is situational. It could be really good. It could not, appear to be that good at all. However, if the enemy has got, like a big nasty hero on, like a Frostlord and Stonehorn, for example, and you've got your Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, given this artifact, charge into that Stonehorn, and that could be quite an even fight. So by able to do the Orb of Enchantment only once per battle, but just before 1 turn on that Frostlord, could make could hugely and will swing that combat hugely in your favour, and make you come out of it potentially not too badly scratched up. So that could be good, especially how, like I say, you pick a hero within 3 inches and you don't have to roll a dice to trigger on a 4-up or something, what they could have done. So it's nice that it's a constant thing you'll be able to do once per game. So I do like that one. Okay, now moving on to number 4. So Soulbound Garments. Woven with dark magic, these richly embroidered cloths are as tough as steel. So you can reroll save rolls of 1 for the bearer. So again, for the Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, as again he's the best example for most of these things. He's got a 3-up save with his shield. If he puts a Mystic Shield on himself, and then he takes this artifact, so I have a 2-up save re-rolling 1s. And then if you take the Soul Crushing Contempt Command trait, which makes the enemy unit subtract... No, sorry, not that one. Where are we? The Aura of Dark Magistry. which subtracts 1 from hit rolls or attacks that target this general in the combat phase. You're making the enemies -1 to hit you in combat, and so neutering a lot of mortal wounds. And then you've got 2 up saves, you're rolling once, and you can heal. So it's going to be very hard to take this, bastard down. So I like that one. That's pretty good. Number 5, the Oblit Arcana. I think that's how you pronounce that word. Moving on. So the casket resembles a miniature coffin carved from the ivory and black wood. It captures arcane energy, allowing the bearer to redirect an enemy wizard's magic. So when an enemy wizard successfully casts a spell within 13 inches of the bearer, instead of attempting to unbind it, you can declare that the Optimus Arcanium will attempt to capture the magical energies. Roll a dice. On a 6+, the spell is negated and has no effect. In addition, that spell may not be cast again by that wizard for the rest of the battle. Okay, so this is good. So it is very like I say, risky. You might not get it off for a whole game. You might be lucky and get those 6s in. However, you can essentially unbind it within 30 inches. So that's a big range, and doesn't say you need to see the enemy wizard who casts the spell as well. So if he's trying to hide it, they can't get away from this. And if you roll a 6, they can't cast that spell again. So where I'd love to see this is when you're playing in tournaments, and quite often you fight a Gaunt Summoner, as he's got a nasty spell to basically delete horde units, where casts a spell, picks a enemy unit, and then you roll a dice for each model in that unit, and on a 4-up they take a mortal wound. Now if you target a unit of 40 skeletons with this, rolling 40 dice, on average he's going to kill 20 skeletons, and then you've got to do a battle test. So pretty nasty. And to top it off, the Gaunt Summoner often has a Bellwind Vortex in reserve, which has 100 points to summon this Bellwind Vortex in, but once he does, he gets +1 to cast it, and he gets to double the range of his spells. And once he's got that, he's up there for the rest of the game, and as Def has barely any shooting, it's really hard to try and snipe him down. So, how I like to see this artifact be used is when he tries to summon the Bellwind Vortex. If you're really lucky and you get that 6 and you stop him casting that spell, then obviously he's not on the Bellwind Vortex, but as the spell can't be cast again, that enemy army's paid 100 points from that Bellwind Vortex, and it can't be summoned because he cannot redo that spell. So yeah, pretty sucks to be them then. So that would be really quite funny. So like I say, quite hard to get off, but if you get it off, it'd just be really funny and really good. Okay, so moving on to the last one, so number 6. Amulet of Screams. The bearer of this amulet can flood their foe's mind with a tormented howling of damned souls, leaving them terrified and reeling. Once per battle, when an enemy wizard successfully casts a spell, instead of attempting to unbind it, you can declare that this bearer will use the Amulet of Screams. If you do so, roll a 2+, and this spell is negated and has no effect. So this is sort of similar to the last one we saw, however it's just basically an auto unbind and a 2-up. It's only once per game, so choose wisely when you would use this. If you're playing against a Zeech army, it could be really useful. If you're playing against a Seraphon army, I don't know, and they've got points in reserve to summon a Carnosaur or something like that, I don't know, and they manage to summon it, you can just go, nope, you're not getting that, and just deny it. Or if you're playing against another Nagash and they've got Hands of Dust or something like that, you can just deny that as well. It's pretty good. However, it is only once per battle, so I don't know, if you've got a Legion of Blood army and you've got a battalion in it and you're wondering what to take for your second artifact, maybe this one. However, I do think there are better ones out there. So looking at the artifacts of blood, the ones that I like are the Ring of Dominion. So that's the one where you can have a chance of making the enemy essentially steal one of their weapons and attack them with it. So I like that one. What else have we got? Another one I like is the Orb of Enchantment. So that's once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can pick an enemy hero within 3 inches of the bearer in that combat phase. That enemy hero may not pile in, attack, or use abilities. I think that could really, like I say, it's hugely swing a battle in your favour. And if it's your general versus general, their general on big monsters, and you come out virtually unscratched, and they come out, you know, as dead as a dodo, it could, you know, swing the result of the whole game. So that's pretty good there. So that's the Ring of Dominion I like, the Orb of Enchantment, and I also like the Soulbound Garnets that allow you to reroll save rolls of 1 for the bearer, just because you can make your general, if you don't turn Neferata, you just take the Vampire on Zombie Dragon, have a 2-up save, reroll in 1s, and then make the enemy -1 to him in the combat. You can make him really survivable. So I like that. And then the Orbilit Arcana, did I say that's how I pronounced it? So we'll go for that. Which is when an enemy wizard successfully casts a spell within 30 inches of the bearer, instead of attempting to unbind it, you can declare that the Amulet Arcana will attempt to capture the magical energies, or a dice on a 6+, the spell is negated and has no effect. In addition, that spell cannot be cast again by that wizard for the rest of the battle. So like I said, it is swinging. You know, it's pretty hard to get off. You're going to be a lot of games where you don't even get this off, and you know, it'll be annoying. However, like I say, if you've got that Gaunt Summoner trying to get in the Vortex just to make his spell even more horrendous, you can deny that. Of course, if he's got, you know, like 2 Gaunt Summoners and then the other one can do it, yeah, sure, there's potential there. However, it's more than likely he won't have that. So, being able to deny someone a Bellwind Vortex would just be really funny, especially if the only other wizards they have are like Lord of Change and stuff like that, so they're monsters, so they can't do it. Would be really good. So, yeah, they're my 3 tops. So that's a Ring of Dominion, Orb of Enchantment, Soulbound Garnets. So they're my 3 top, and then after that I do like the, you know, on a 6-up, you unbind that spell, and you also make that wizard not be able to cast again. So I think that's pretty good. Okay, so that are all the battle traits for the Legions of Blood. So that's the battle traits, the command traits, and the artifacts of blood. So all the Allegiance abilities. And then of course you can pick spells from the Laws of the Dead for your wizards in this army. And we covered that in the Legion of Sacrament video. For more details on those spells, you can go check that out. So what we're going to have a look at now is we're going to have a look at the battalion for the Legion of Blood, which is quite a hero-based battalion. I believe it is the Court of New Lamia, so essentially like the new version of Lamia, which is pretty cool. So, vampire courtiers and generals high in Queen Neferata's regard are rewarded with a place at her side in battle, and the honour of sampling the intoxicating brews of her favoured sanguinarch. So, the Court of New Lamia consists of the following units: Neferata, Mortouch of Blood, 2 or more Vampire Lords, 1 Bloodseeker Palanquin, and then the abilities are the Endeavour. Whilst she is within 9 inches of this battalion's Bloodseeker Palanquin, you can reroll failed hit rolls for Neferata if she targets is an enemy hero. So that could be quite good. Of course, it relies on the Palanquin not being, you know, shot to pieces, but if you've got all these things on the board, you know, you're probably looking at a Vampire Lord and a Zombie Dragon. You've got on the board, you've got Neferata, and you've got the Palanquin, so the enemy's going to have a whole choice of what to shoot, and the Palanquin probably isn't going to be on top of their list, but Neferata might be, so that might make this ability pointless. However, it's pretty cool because I do really like Neferata. I think she's really good in combat, and well, you know, you can reroll failed hit rolls, and not failed hit rolls of 1, just generally failed hit rolls. She targets a hero. She already gets benefits if she targets heroes, which we'll look at her war scroll in a bit. So, you know, there's a nice sort of synergy there. And then moving on to the second ability, Scent of Blood. At the start of your movement phase, units from the Court of New Lamia that are within 9 inches of this battalion's Bloodseeker Palanquin may add 4 to their movement characteristics until the end of that phase. Okay, so that's pretty good. I mean, okay, let's start from, you know, bottom to top. So we've got the if you have just a normal Vampire Lord on foot, however, you could take him, you know, on a Zombie Dragon, but you just have him on foot because of point reasons. If he's on foot, of course, he can, you know, fly, or he can have the horse. So if he's got the horse, let's just say, because that's how I've got my one, you can add 4 to his move characteristics. So that means he or she, I should say, is moving 14 inches now on the bloody horse, so that's fast. The Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon is moving 18 inches now. You know, it's not too bad. And then the Bloodseeker Palanquin is moving 18 inches as well. And the Neferata is moving 20 inches, which is absolutely insane. Bear in mind she could run and charge, or like run or charge, I should say, as well. So that's good. It does remind me a lot of the Legion of Sacrament battalion, which was, what was that called again? That was called Lords of Sacrament. How it all resolved around the Mortis engine there. Here it resolves all around the Bloodseeker Palanquin, which is, you know, fine. Like I said, the enemy's probably going to try and snipe off Neferata or the Zombie Dragon first before the Bloodseeker Palanquin, especially if they don't know what this battalion revolves around. As soon as they played it once or twice, you can make sure they will start targeting that Bloodseeker Palanquin. However, the first couple of games you play against someone with this, you're taken by surprise. You do pretty well. Makes your guys a lot faster. They are all heroes though, so making units faster generally is better. However, these heroes, like I say, if you alpha strike them into the enemy's army, yeah, sure, one by one they might not do that much, but if you alpha strike the whole bloody battalion into the enemy's army, like Neferata, you could have 2 Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragons and Bloodseeker Palanquin. I'm not saying that's a good thing to do, but I'm saying, you know, depending on the army you're fighting, it could be something the enemy wouldn't expect, and the damage output could be huge. So, could be a way to use it. Or if you're playing the battle plan, which is Duality of Death, which I played on Saturday, where you capture the objectives of your heroes, being able to make your heroes move really fast, I say could be, I mean it will be very useful. So got that. Making Neferata, you know, more combat orientated is, you know, it's not bad at all, and yeah, it's essentially the battalion that's got all your big heroes in it. For the Legions of Nagash, so it's quite nice, and it's quite, you know, fluffy as well. It's like, you know, Neferata's like royal court essentially, and then Court of Nulama costs 70 points. So wow, that's cheap. That's really cheap. It's as cheap as the Lord's Sacrament, which is Arkhan's one. 70 points. You get an extra artifact. You're making your army easier to deploy, and you're getting these extra abilities. And like I say, you know, there are better battalions out there, and this battalion, if you want to go as heavy as you can and make the Vampire Lords both on Zombie Dragons, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. This battalion is going to be definitely the majority of points for your army, particularly in a 2,000 point game. However, I mean, like I say, I really like Neferata. She was the first Mortarch I built and painted. That's why she's not probably as well painted as my later Mortarches I've done this month. I painted 2 in January, so there was that. And then so yeah, she was the first one I painted. She was the first one I read about the story, so that's why I really like her. So I haven't got a Bloodseeker Palanquin model at the moment, so I'm probably going to buy the Start Collecting Malignant box, and I'll get some Spirit Hosts and some Hex-Rays and Black Knights with that as well, and then make a Bloodseeker Palanquin so I can run this battalion, as I think it would be really fun. So we've got that battalion for 70 points, you know, that's not bad at all. And then let's have a look finally at Neferata's War Scroll, just so we can see what she's like in the new book. So we've got a Neferata, Mortarch of Blood, so we've got a movement characteristic of 16 to start. We've got 4+ save, bravery 10 and 11 wounds, so this is the same as before the update. A lot of these War Scrolls are going to be the same, there'll just be a couple of differences here and there. So the first Meteor Weapon she's got is Akmet Ha, so it's got a range of 1, 5 attacks, 2's to hit, 3's to wound, -1 rend, 1 damage. And then we've got Akenseth, so range 1, 2 attacks, 2's to hit, 3's to wound, -2 rend, 2 damage. Nagadron's Claws, so we've got 1 attack, 1 inch range, it starts with 6 attacks and will go down the more damage it takes. 4 to hit, 3's to wound, -2 rend and 2 damage. And then Spirit Spectral Claws, 6 attacks, 5's to hit, 4 to wound and 1 damage. And the last one doesn't sound particularly good, however, if you get 6's to hit, it's doing mortal wounds. So the Dread Abyssal, so her mount is the same damage output as Manfred's and Arcan's, and so is the Spirit House, of course. However, two-handed weapons are different, so we've got one, like I said, hits on 2, wounds on a 3, miles from range, 1 damage. It's not bad. Particularly how in that battalion you would be re-rolling those failed hit rolls if you're in range of the Bloodseeker Panicum. And when you hit on 2, re-rolling failed, so re-rolling 1s. You're not going to be failing to hit a lot. And if the enemy makes you -1 bravery and you're hitting on 3s now, re-rolling failed save rolls, failed hit rolls even, it's not bad. So 5 attacks there for -1 rend, and the next one 2 attacks, 2s to hit, 3s to wound, -2 rend, 2 damage. Again, re-rolling those failed hit rolls. It's nice. And however, with the like I said, the basically the monsters' attacks are the same, but you're re-rolling those failed hit rolls. So pretty good there. Right, and then we're going to have a look at the abilities. So Neferata can fly, just like the other Mortal Archers, so that's good, moving 16 inches and flying. Okay, her abilities are Dagger of Jet. If a model was allocated any wounds from attacks made using by Akmahar, which is the 5 attack weapon with a 2 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend, and 1 damage. So if it suffers any wound from that, but is not slain, roll a dice after Neferata has finished making all 4 attacks, and a roll of a 6, that model is slain. So this is essentially the same ability as the White Cube with Black Axe. She used to have an ability similar to this, which I personally preferred, where it was roll a dice at the end of after she made her attacks, and then if you rolled, I believe it was over the amount of wounds they had left, I believe that unit that suffered those wounds was dead. However, now on a roll of 6, it's dead, so depending on what you find, it's not going to be triggering as much. However, if you're fighting, I don't know, an Archaon, let's just go for him because, everyone always fights him all the time, which is definitely not true. So, if you attack him, and let's say you're unlucky, you do 4 damage, 3 damage to him, still on a roll of a 6, you can auto kill him, which is really nice. And especially if you use it on him, or Frosthorn Stonehorn, or Thunder Tusk, or Lariel, or Maw Crusher. There's lots of uses, lots of those high wound models. So Dagger of Jet isn't bad, and then More Touch of Blood. So at the end of any combat phase in which Neferata slew enemy models, you can heal 2 wounds that have been allocated to her. If Neferata slew any hero models in this turn, you may heal 1 additional wound allocated to her. Okay, so this is sort of replacing her last ability. So her last ability was, of course, she could heal 2 wounds if she killed an enemy model. So that was always a thing, but if she killed a enemy hero, she could turn it into a Vampire Lord, which was pretty cool. She had to kill it with her hand weapons though, but it was still pretty cool. However, you had to obviously save the points for it, so it's a bit like it was too situational, and 140 points, to bring on to summon if she gets it. If if the enemy snipes her off the table, you can't bring on a Vampire Lord. It was just too many ifs and buts, and then of course you had to save the points. However, this is a much better ability in my opinion. So if she kills a hero, she's still recognised as basically being good at killing heroes, as she'll heal an extra wound, which will heal 3 wounds if she does that. So that's not bad at all. And then the next ability, Frightful Touch. This is what I was saying. The Spirit Host, so there's 6 attacks. They get 6s to hit. They cause a mortal wound. Okay, then her next ability, Deathly Invocation, so we all know what this does by now. And for Neferata, at the start of your hero phase, pick up to 4 different friendly summonable units within 18 inches of Neferata. You can heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to each unit you picked, roll separately for each unit. If no wounds are currently allocated to a unit you have picked, you may instead return a number of slain models to it that have a wound characteristic equal to or less than the roll of a D3. So we've talked about this ability a lot now. Like I say, I do like it. When I say I do like it, I mean I've talked about this ability a lot. It's almost like the centre of how death works now, of how you make your units durable. If you're not playing for this ability or trying to maximise it as much as you can, you're probably going to be doing yourself a disservice with death moving forward. So the fact that she can pick 4 different friendly summonable units within 18 inches of her is good. It's a lot better than most of the heroes, and it's the same as the other Mortal Archers, so it's good. And then moving on to magic. So Neferata is a wizard. She can attempt to cast 2 spells in your hero phase and attempt to unbind 2 spells in the enemy hero phase. She knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Dark Mist spells. So, we know what Arcane Bolt does, and Mystic Shield, so let's have a look at what Dark Mist does. So, at her arcane command, tendrils of dark mist coil around Neferata's minions, turning their corporeal forms as insubstantial as smoke. So, Dark Mist has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick a friendly death unit within 18 inches of the caster. Until your next hero phase, that unit can fly, and you must ignore modifiers, positive or negative, when making save rolls for the unit. So, this obviously off the bat is a good spell, however it did used to be better, as it used to essentially give them the ethereal rule where they just didn't take any rend. However, now that they ignore save modifiers, good or bad, means that you can't Mystic Shield them. So what I used to do, I used to put on a block of 40 skeletons, made them be able to fly, and then you ran them so you know they could try and get to the objective very quickly in the middle of the board, and a Mystic Shield on them, so they were taking, they had made their 6-up save a 5-up save. They weren't taking rend, so when the enemy went to attack them, because they didn't accept their rend, their shield gave them other +1 saves. So the skeleton warriors with 4-up save was really useful. However, now it's changed, so you don't get, you know, positive or negative to your save rolls. However, you know, maybe there are some more negative abilities out there that affect your save roll in a negative way. Then there are ways to make them, your save roll, be enhanced in a positive way. I do doubt that, but you know, you never know. There may be lots of nasty spells out there that affect your save roll. So, still a good spell, and only casts on a 6, so it is nice. Means your units can fly, and it's a good spell to have in the toolbox, basically. So we've got that, and then we've got the command ability, so Twilight Allure. So if Neferata uses this ability, then until your next hero phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls for enemy units that are within the range shown on the damage table. And this range starts at 15 inches when she's on full health, and then after she's taken 9 damage, it goes down to 3 inches. So it ends up still, you know, being basically whatever's within combat for her. So 15 inches is huge, and because it's subtract 1 from hit rolls for the enemy within starting 15 inches, it means shooting as well. So what people have done in the past with this is you take Neferata, you take Bat Swarms, so if the enemy shooting within range of both those, you know, abilities, then -2 to hit. And then if you take a Mongol as well, which I can't remember, I think that might just make the enemy -1 to hit in combat. If it does so, then it pairs up nicely with Neferata as well, as it makes the enemy -2 to hit them. So it is a good command ability. It's referred to being one of the best in depth, as 15 inches is huge, especially if you're going to be getting her into combat. So she's going to be quite high up on board with the rest of your troops. Don't send her in unsupported, otherwise she'll die pretty quickly. However, when supported, this command ability obviously will stay in effect for longer, as you know, essentially she will die slower. So yeah, a good ability there. Like I say, it stops the enemy from getting those minuses. Oh, sorry, it stops the enemy from getting any abilities that trigger like on a 6 to hit. You know, unless they've got abilities of themselves that gives them pluses to hit, and if they do, then it means they're having to spend those abilities on units they weren't originally planned to. Like if you have, you know, I don't know, like long strike raptors for Stormcross, with those basically those sniper bows. Well, the sniper crossbows that are a pain in the arse, and they have like a 30-inch range. They go 2 mortal wounds on 6s to hit. Now I don't know if there are ways within the Stormcross armor to give them +1 to hit. However, I know there are ways with the, is it the Celestial Hurricanum? I believe it is, that gives all the units within range of it +1 to hit. And they might have just been having that for their they might have planned to send it up with like their retributors and stuff to make their, you know, damage output that much better. However, now they might be forced to keep it back with the raptors just to basically take away the, you know, the debuff you've put on that unit. So bit of a long distraction there, me trying to explain that, but just trying to think of uses how this command ability can be really useful. And just generally on your army, making the enemy -1 to hit, even if they don't do like mortal wounds or additional attacks on 6s to hit, let's just say it's a normal unit that hits on a 4, now it's hitting on a 5, makes it that much harder to kill. And like I said, you've got a Mongol as well, and this is the combat, making them -2 to hit, so they hit on a 4 normally, now they're hitting on 6s, which will just usually make that enemy unit just pointless, unless they're just chucking incredible amounts of attacks. So, yep, that's a War Scroll, and then our keywords are Death, Vampire, Soulblight, Death Lords, Monster, Hero, Wizard, Mortarch, Neferata. So again, like Manfred, she's gained the Soulblight keyword, so for Soulblight armies, that's useful there. And it's useful for things like command traits and other artifacts as well. So, that has been Neferata's own personal legion, the Legion of Blood, which I am a big fan of because, like I say, Neferata is my favourite Mortarch out of all of them for lore reasons, and I think she's awesome. The Legion's abilities, they're pretty good. They're quite aggressive, especially compared to things like the Grand Host and Nagash and Legion of Sacrament, of course. So, pretty good. I would have liked to have seen Neferata's one being a little bit more sneaky rather than just like full out more attacks. However, it's still good, so I appreciate that. Really wish I sort of had some Blood Knights to make the most of it. However, with my Vargeist, I try and make the most of it as I can. And some really nice artifacts there can affect the enemies in good ways. And there's ways to make your Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, if you want to take him instead of Neferata as a general, really effective. And then the battalion only costs 70 points, so I think that's a good Legion there, and I do look forward to trying it out. So, as always, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if so, please like, subscribe and comment down below, as again, that does always really help me to produce more videos, and like I say, try and get one video up a day. So, until next time, remember, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.